Hey, everybody. Debbie Lucas here. John here. We're here for cooking today. And we're all about the soups today, which is a perfect day actually outside for it. So it's not just making soup that we're talking about, but also doing swaps. So like veganizing your favorite soups or also cloning soups. Like you go to California Pizza Kitchen and you say, I love that smashed barley pea soup they have there. And then you make that, which is one of my favorite clones. So I do that one actually a lot at home too. John's doing bouillabaisse, which I've got to say, I've never had it vegan or unvegan. So I'm really excited about that. And so he's going to get started because I think he's going to take a little longer than my gnocchi one.
Okay, bouillabaisse. This is not a food that my mother cooked. This is a food that I accidentally came on 50 years ago when Julie Child was on PBS, and she did it with chicken. And being someone who cooked chicken, I thought, well, it's kind of interesting. And the only things I could pick up or remember from that was that she used leeks and fennel. And so I made it a couple times long ago and then moved on. Now that the world has changed, so I've gotten a little bit more serious about cooking. And so I thought, oh, bouillabaisse, let's give it a go. And since soy curls are a thing that I'm using now instead of chicken, I did a search and found something that comes pretty close. The thing about this is the bouillabaisse sounds really schmancy. And then bouillon, bouillabaisse, both the bouille part is boiled. This is a stew. This is a soup. It's that sort of.
What's the base?
That's what you put in.
Bouillabaisse is boiled.
It's boiled stuff. Yeah, I don't know.
So it's boiled, whatever you.
Yeah, so you can throw in. Originally, it was seafood. Julie Child said you could use chicken. You can use for that protein part any protein. So it's more thinking that it sounds schmancy, but think of it as stew and get over it. It's real easy.
I think I don't mean to be whatever I am, but when it's French, it just really it's more snooty than.
Yeah, that's the mushroom
boiled vegetables.
It's French, so we're going to use wine and we're going to say French. We're going to start out with cooking the fennel and onions and the leeks until they are sort of clear, soft. We're not looking to brown it.
So you just threw those in a dry pot?
A dry pot, yeah, I'm going to add a little bit of fluid here, but.
So is there tricks to cutting the fennel and the leeks? I rarely use
fennel is like celery.
Uh-huh.
And if you want it to cook rapidly, then you cook it or you slice it thinner.
Uh-huh.
And fennel also has a core that's really tough. And so it's important to cut out the core. If you don't get it all, you'll notice it here even after a long simmer. I found that out in an earlier batch. So we pour from the top.
That's right. You taught us that. Me too.
From the top of what?
From
instead
of pouring like you would traditionally, you would think, oh, I do it this way. Yes, you go this way.
With the thing at the top, the air is filling in. So
less splashing too, imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the reason, so it splashes less?
Yes.
Or is that the French way of doing it?
You could put it on a parade and say, yes, that's how we do it.
You should have worn a beret today. That would be fun.
Yeah, if I had a beret, that would work. So these are what we're getting here is a mixture of the onions, leeks, and the fennel. And there's this sort of underlying fennel flavor. We're going to add the fennel spice, but not quite yet.
So what was in there? Just onions, or that was?
This is onion. Oh, I thank you for saying it. Onions. Onions, leeks, and fennel.
So leeks was the first thing that you threw in there.
Yeah. Well, leeks was
Leeks
on top
and
of the pile.
And what are some tricks when you cut the leeks?
Leeks often have sand in them, depending on how they're grown. So you always cut them in half and fan to see if there's any sand, rinse out any sand.
Because they're layers.
Yeah, little thin layers. What I did with the previous batch is cut in half, have the 2 half moons, cut it in half again, makes it easier to fan. And things don't slide all over the place. This is a pretty tight leek all around. So,
did you put the green and the white?
just the white.
Just the white.
Good question.
The green is one of those things I feel guilty pitching. So it's joins other things like shiitake mushroom stems and things like that in the freezer, and ultimately you boil them up and get a stock. Which is really very few recipes that I've seen that use the green part of the leek.
You're right.
So,
And they're kind of tough.
yeah. So I'm going to. A little bit more. That's why these things take long, as you're waiting for celery till they get soft.
That's true. Okay.
We are using Yukon Gold potatoes, which are going to take not the end of the earth, but they'll take about 15 minutes to cook. Got white wine here. This is a box. This is not fancy white wine. This is, well, Sutter Home. So it was the Safeway ease. And the nice thing about this is you can use what you need and put a top back on. And it goes back in the fridge and it still works.
And you bought that in the wine section of the store?
It is, yeah. There's a place at the end you can, there's one called Black Box. It's 50 cents more. And then there are the little bottles. I think I made something with the little bottles. But it's something that I think they're getting more of because people don't want to be stuck with half a bottle of wine.
A lot of people, that would never be an issue. They go, huh? What's the problem with that?
If you were Julia Childs, it wouldn't be an issue.
I know, you were right.
Or Graham Kerr.
Oh, yeah. The Galloping Gourmet?
Yeah.
He was so great.
He had a problem with a large goblet and smiling a lot. Okay, so now this is, I don't know if you can, I guess you can see. The onions are beginning to get clear. So we're going to throw in the tomatoes.
Are those just diced tomatoes?
Just diced.
Okay.
I use 1 can. This is 4 to 5 medium. It's hard to find a flavorful tomato this time of year, so this is the flavorful tomato. We're going to throw in the garlic. Keep that a few minutes. And then
I'll get mine going.
go ahead.
We're waiting for a sec.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a clone recipe of the chicken gnocchi soup from Olive Garden. Has anybody had that? It's my mom's absolute favorite. That's what she always gets when she goes there. And so I made it one day, the veganized version, and she really liked it. So I thought, oh, this must be a keeper because she doesn't always like what I make. And so it's quick and easy. And then John found another recipe. My original one was from the Plant U girl, like Carly Blue Drug, I think's her name. And then John found one from
Zardy.
Zardy. And so it's kind of a combo. And when John made it at home, he used his soy curls. So he talked about different proteins you could use besides the chicken. And so we're going for the chickpeas right now. But you could also use jackfruit. You could use the soy curls. You can use those fake chicken tips that they sell in the store. So we're just going with the bean. But it's just a standard soup. You just start out with, like you do for every soup, onions, carrots, celery.
Mirepoix.
Mirepoix. And if you were lazy and didn't even want to do that, you could just buy that already chopped up. Now, what's interesting, I think, on this, I threw the onion in a little bit. I just put a little water in here, no oil. Of course, the original recipe called for some oil, but I'm not doing oil. I'm just doing it in the pan. And then when it starts to get, like, you think, oh my gosh, it's going to burn, then you throw a little more water in or a little more broth. And the thing with soups, especially at restaurants, is how high salt they are. So if we were to order a cup of this soup, or no, a bowl, which is bigger than a cup. So at Olive Garden, it would be 1,200 milligrams of sodium. So we're going to cut that back substantially by using low sodium in our beans, low sodium in our broth, and just the vegetables and things.
But you do need sodium in it.
What?
You do need sodium in it.
Do you need your,
I think you do.
Okay, so it wouldn't taste as.
Well, you know, it's like after everything I make, people go, oh, that needs a little salt. It's going to do that. But I went low sodium. So you'll have to see if you would do even more. I brought this. I've been into the Trader Joe's low sodium broth lately because it's cheaper. It's only $1.99 for a box instead of like $4.99 like it is at Raley's. But Linda had some little bouillon cubes of low sodium vegetable broth. So I just whipped that up instead. Now I can also just keep adding this. Just to keep it from burning. And then I'm going to also add my celery and carrots, and you can go next, John, if you need to.
Okay, so the next part is we're adding the wine, cup and a half. Let that go. The spices, which is a bay leaf, some thyme, some fennel, and this is 1 2-inch piece of orange peel, and I'm partial to orange peel, so I'm doing 2.
What does the orange peel do? That was interesting.
It's really good.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's. I think it works with the aniseed lemon or fennel.
Oh.
It really
Okay, that's interesting.
very tasty. And then we have to add the broth with that.
you've not yet put the potatoes in though, right?
Potatoes will come in after I bring this to a boil.
Okay.
And the potatoes aren't cooked, right?
Right.
I saw somebody on a cooking show the other day doing roasted potatoes, and they just use those multicolored little ones that you get in the bag, and they boiled them first, and then they roasted them. Have you ever done that?
No.
Me either. I'm dying to try it. She said it was good to boil them first so that they're more cooked. So then they're going to be more. She also used tons of oil when she roasted, but she thought it brings out the flavor more.
Can you do that by nuking them?
Maybe, yeah. So you could just microwave them instead.
Yeah,
Probably same
I just
thing.
poke holes in them and I'll just.
Yeah.
I like potatoes and I like them.
But it was just super easy. She used a pan like this, threw the whole bag of potatoes in, cold water, brought it to a boil, cooked it for a bit, and so that might be easier than poking every single one to be good. Okay, sorry, John.
Okay, so
Tagger.
when I'm not at a boil. Well, it's beginning to.
Yeah, I'm just softening mine up a little bit. We need filler? I have things we can do.
No. One thing this does add, and this is going to be my experiment. The recipe calls for saffron, and when I've made things with saffron, I've taken the Trader Joe's little thing, and they say pinch of saffron, and I throw the pinch in. I've never bloomed saffron before, and I thought, before I made this, I should see what this thing is about. I said, well, of course, you're only going to get the flavor if you bloom it.
So what does blooming mean?
It means that you're making tea and hydrating it. And so this would go in at the end, because when you're adding something that's got a sort of a fugitive flavor, you don't cook it, don't throw it in at the beginning and cook it out. You add it at the end. It's like when you make Korean food and they ask for toasted sesame oil, and they ask for cook it in a teaspoon and a half or a tablespoon and a half because of that flavor. You go, no, you're gonna cook it with water and then add a couple of drops at the end. My nose is going to get that toasted sesame hit without that. So that's why I'm testing this, to see if I can taste the saffron. When I first did this 50 years ago, saffron was an unknown quantity. I never saw it in my Safeway. So this is just fine using leeks and fennel. I'm just looking now to see if there's anything more. I've got boilage. So we're going to add the potatoes. And add the soy kernels.
Did you hydrate the soy oils?
What's that?
Did you hydrate the soy oils?
Yes. Hydrated them, squeezed them out so that they would be able to accept the flavors in the broth.
Did you just hydrate them with water, or did you hydrate them with broth or something?
I did it in water. I've been doing, I initially, like in the last several years, I've been using broth. And I realized that in the times where I hydrated it in water and then squeezed it out, they shed more of that soy kernel paste, that sort of lingering dry soy flavor. And became more receptive to the flavors of the sauces that they were in. So now I'm just.
You tried hydrating them in wine?
In what?
Wine.
No. Why would I do that?
I mean, those leftover bottles of wine, a little bit of wine. Excellent. Hydrating.
Okay, I'm bringing this to a boil, and then I'm going to let it go.
Okay, I'm just gonna tell you, we did garlic, so I minced a bunch of garlic, added that. It called for thyme, which took us multiple times to find the thyme in here. But we added some thyme and we added some pepper. Since we're limited on black pepper here and I didn't bring any, I'm using white pepper. We'll see. So you just do that, you keep stirring for about 30 seconds so it's all mixed and my vegetables are a little soft. And now I'm gonna add my garbanzo beans, chickpeas, or if I was doing like my soy curls, I would add those now, or my jackfruit, or whatever protein I chose to use, tofu, you could just use tofu. And then I'm gonna add my broth. It says slowly add the broth. I don't know why.
So you don't splash yourself.
I guess not. And then I'm bringing it back to a boil, and then we'll add the gnocchi. Now, who here's, oh, do you need to tell me?
Nope.
Okay, I'll just go on my little spiel on gnocchi. Who here has ever used gnocchi before? Made it? Do you like gnocchi?
Daughter loves it.
Yeah, I
So
love
we
gnocchi.
have it.
So if you've heard of gnocchi, what do you do with it?
You don't want to hear
I know. You know, it comes with Alfredo sauce, right? It's gnocchi and Alfredo sauce.
Yeah, it's just basically a simple dish.
But
Sort of a
gnocchi,
replacement for spaghetti.
it's super easy just to make.
Right.
Just little potatoes. And it just takes some time. But I got these, I happen to get them at Rayleigh's. You can get them at most any grocery store. They're in the pasta section. They did have a gluten-free one. And someone was here earlier and said, oh, I can't eat that because it's not gluten-free. And I thought I should have grabbed the gluten-free one. And I did not.
Where did you find gluten-free gnocchi?
At Rayleigh's.
Well,
Yeah. So I'm just going to bring this to a boil and then I'll add this. But I'll tell you what I do with gnocchi much more than this, or even with pasta, is I do a sheet pan dinner. And you just throw your gnocchi just like that on your pan, chop up your vegetables, or if you do beans or whatever, throw those on there. Mix them with a little broth just to keep them wet. Sometimes I'll spray the olive oil spray on them, and then you just cook it for like 25 minutes. And it makes a great dinner, sheet pan dinner. My favorite thing to do with gnocchi. Okay, I'm waiting to boil now. So I got to boil before I can add my gnocchi. And gnocchi just takes a couple minutes to cook.
Okay, well. We're cooking.
Okay.
There's, with a lot of things like, with a lot of soups and stews, a lot of your cooking time is up front and the rest is simmering. Like the vegetables cook, the flavors mix. The aroma here is pretty nice. That's one thing about doing soups and stews is that the kitchen, because you've got a bunch of different flavors going in one pot or one source, the house smells good. And if you're using a lot of spices, that helps it along even more. We are coming close to the time when Dave will be bringing in beet greens. I don't know if you've been here when he's done that. He'll stick like 6 or 7 bunches of greens, and they sit there, and I'll take 2 or 3 because there is a soup made with beet greens, tomatoes, bulgur, and then sundry spices and such. That is one of those mainstream, better than you could believe kind of meals. And we just finished off a batch last night. It's soul satisfying. It's something that when you have leftovers, it still packs flavor and chew to it. So, which is one of mine. We make a lot of pasta in the house, and second day pasta can be kind of not as good. So having something like this or some other soups that are more clear soups tend to be a real boon as far as next day flavors.
And I think soups and stews freeze well too. So then you always have something in the freezer. When I used to work, I would bring I pull something out of the freezer, and then at lunch I'd go microwave it. And people say, oh, what do you have today? And I said, I don't know. It's whatever I pulled out. They all look the same to me. So you never knew. So it was always a surprise. So I think that's good. And John, what's the difference between a stock and a broth?
For me, broth is clear.
Okay.
And the stock is unfiltered.
Right.
Uh,
I think stocks often include a meat too.
well, yeah.
no broth does too, beef broth.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
The Scots drink their hot drink in the wintertime is Bobber, which is beef broth.
Oh, really?
They serve it at sporting events and yeah,
Oh,
it's called Bobber.
not quite.
See, I live in a house with an etymologist, so we would not just say, I think it's, she would get out the phone, click the etymon line, and tell me exactly.
You
Yes.
wanna know what Google says?
Yeah.
Stock is made from bones and broth is made from flesh.
Ugh.
Broth is made from flesh.
Bones.
Broth is made from flesh.
Well, there you go.
No, oh, look, we got it up here. Thank you. Got I need my glasses to see that.
Okay,
Okay.
I think I like John's explanation better.
Yeah. So stock, thank you, Ivan. Thick consistency. This is for stock. Used bones, meat, and cartilage. Often throws in vegetables and herbs and cooks for 3 or more hours. Where a broth is usually thinner, so like you said, clear. But it could use meat, but no bones. But often uses vegetables and herbs and cooks in 1 to 3 hours. Thank you. So very nice.
And in that case, it's still filter out the cooking vegetables.
Right.
Flavors.
Yeah.
You know, Anthony Bourdain really liked marrow
Yeah.
and bone and marrow in stuff that he would make.
Bone broth is very hip now.
Is it?
Oh gosh, yes.
Yeah.
People.
There are
I can't-
reviews of it in New York Times and
Yeah.
Sports Illustrated and because they rate, this is a better than this. It's like, fine, it's, I used to do that with turkey carcasses and boil them until
Yeah.
the bones were too porous to hold together. Take that thing out, and what you had left when it chilled, the fat would be on the top, and you'd have this gelatin of this protein.
Yeah, my mom would do that with Thanksgiving turkeys all the time.
So I added my gnocchi. It says when it comes to boil, turn it back down to like low and let it simmer for about 8 minutes. And then a lot of the recipes you'll see will call for a can of coconut milk, but we made some coconut cream to use instead. And then I'm going to put some spinach in it. And John told me that when I use spinach, I also need to use nutmeg. So we're going to put a little nutmeg in it.
Oh, yeah.
So
How did you make coconut cream?
Nice.
How did you make coconut cream?
oh, it's cashew cream. So it's kind of half a cup or however much cashews you want. You soak them for at least maybe half hour in hot water, and then dump that water out, and then you throw them in your blender. And I add about the same amount of water. What do you add? How do you do it? Because I like it to be.
I do the ocean glows.
Yeah. See, I
So-
hardly make it fancy.
So I do a double batch, so
Uh-huh.
3 cups of cashews, a cup and a half of water, a quarter cup of lemon juice, 4 teaspoons of vinegar, a teaspoon of salt, and a teaspoon of yogurt,
Okay.
and blend it together. And pour it out in a container and let it sit on my counter for a full day, maybe.
Bless you.
And I will have sour cream that is still alive and grows more sour and
Uh-huh.
dense as the time progresses. So you wind up with cream cheese.
Okay.
Very something, but usually
Sorry.
we use it as in cream sauces and tasty things.
Okay. Mine is more of a quick and dirty one. It's just the cashews and some water and blend it up. And I made mine a little on the thinner side this time because when I first made the soup, it was super thick, almost too thick. And John and I agreed the original recipe called for some flour. So we just left the flour out because it didn't need that. So we'll see how it comes out today with a thinner cashew cream and no flour.
Check the potatoes.
When you said coconut cream, do you actually put coconut flavor in it?
No, I did not. No, but if I wanted that, if I was making like a Thai soup, it called for a can of coconut milk, I would use the cashew cream or even just a plant milk and do a little couple drops of coconut extract, and it would give it that flavor a little bit, but not the same consistency. It's not going to be the same consistency. But I don't know, as in the last few years, I just haven't loved the coconut flavor like I used to. But coconut is super saturated. This cashew cream isn't low in fat by any means, but it's not as highly saturated. So it's going to be better for us because it comes from a whole real food.
Coconut cream is a real fad thing.
It is.
People like to throw that in because there was some article maybe a decade ago that said coconut is healthful.
Right.
And so coconut oil, this coconut oil, that. It's like, leave the coconuts alone.
I know.
Coconuts alone.
How are you doing?
I'm still
I got a couple more minutes.
got hard potatoes yet.
Okay, so thinking of any soups that you love, how would you healthy them up? Give me a soup you love.
What cream of mushroom?
What?
Cream
of mushroom. Okay. So that bourguignon that
Yeah.
you make, mushroom bourguignon, is kind of like a cream of mushroom.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would, that's where there is in Molly Cadston's Moosewood cookbook, Hungarian mushroom soup, cream of mushroom soup. That is dangerously good.
Oh, yeah.
And if you,
Oh, I like that.
if you don't use the butter and you don't use the cream, but you use alternatives, and the butter is more for the fine part of it. It is tremendous. And when I was making that, I was using Trader Joe's bag of mixed mushrooms so that I had a variety of mushroom flavors going on. And it's very good. It's Hungarian in that they use the Hungarian hot paprika. So on a winter day or evening, it is aces.
Yeah.
It was my first experience with Hungarian paprika, and I was too generous in my initial.
So it's quite warm, huh?
It is very, very good. I have a tomato soup recipe that's really, really good, and it uses a lot of the Italian spices that you'd find in a pasta sauce, but it's thinner, and it has Worcestershire in it, vegan Worcestershire. So it has that undernote that's pretty tasty.
What makes mushroom soup into mushroom bisque and tomato bisque?
I think the bisque is cream.
Oh.
Yeah. So when you go out to a restaurant, they have tomato bisque. It's great.
Yeah.
That's why it's so good.
Well, also the Campbell's bisque also had, if you looked at the label, they heightened that they put in Marsala wine. It was like, well, maybe in the vat. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I like Amy's mushroom bisque.
Who's?
Soup. Their mushroom bisque.
Yeah.
And I have it in the cupboard for, like if it's getting late and I want something
Right.
that's flavorful, but not gonna, won't bother me when I go to bed.
Uh-huh.
I'll have something like that.
See, that's nice. And that's why it's good when you make soups and you make so much, then you just freeze them so that you can always just pull that out too.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
I like pumpkin porcini soup, and it calls for cream,
Yes.
but I mean, I put coconut milk in it.
Uh-huh.
But,
So that's a viable substitute, but the cashew cream just ends up being less saturated fat.
yeah,
It's just, it is one more step because you got to make it. But like John, he makes it double the batch.
does it keep for a long time? It doesn't go bad.
That's a good question. John, any ideas? I can put this in the fridge. How long is it going to last?
Well, it'll last minimum a week.
Like just the normal.
Yeah, but I've had things go a couple weeks. And if it's there, then you think of ways to use it too. So And when you realize that you're not using it, then you say, well, I'll back off for a while. We've had our fill of whatever.
Do you think you can freeze it?
Imagine you could, it's just nuts and solution.
Yeah,
It's separating, you know.
that's what I wonder. Yeah, it might not look so pretty when you,
Well, we stir it.
yeah. Okay, I think I'm gonna add my cream now. Because I can't see. I also added a little nutritional yeast. It just makes it a little cheesier, a little yellower. We might use all of this, I don't know. How's yours coming along, John?
Well, I'm gonna get a hot pan.
See, I like this texture much better than the first time I made this. First time it was just too thick.
Well, I think some people believe that a soup has to be pasty.
Yeah,
You know, it's, I've had chowders like that where
yeah, this is chowder-like. I love that.
made it.
And then I'm gonna add some spinach, which I chopped up. You know, often when I'm cooking, it'll say chop the spinach, but I'm too lazy to do that. So I'll just pull it out of that little box or bag. And then my husband does not love that because then he's not a real lover of the green. And so now he's got huge things of greens in there. So don't skip that step like I do. So it's just roughly chopped. Not sure if I need all of this. We'll see. You think so? Okay.
I use
All right.
frozen, I just do a quarter of a bag.
See, frozen is a great idea. And then we're gonna do, now this is a nutmeg. That it's the actual pod of nutmeg. And we're just gonna grate it with our little microplane.
A couple more in your done.
Okay. There we go. All right.
You know, nutmeg is a hallucinogenic substance.
It is? How much do you have to have it?
I have no idea.
Probably about that much, actually. It's been,
Yeah, about that.
We'll find out.
I think you have to sniff it, and not eat it.
So you just let the spinach wilt and then it's really pretty much done. I think it's looking pretty good. I did not put any salt in this, so that's the first thing you're gonna say. Oh, I think this needs some salt. So I'll get you some, just in case. I still have some cashew cream. I probably did a little more than the half cup, but not quite a cup. Between John's recipe and my recipe, one called for a cup, one called for half a cup. So I kind of did in between. Yeah, I think that's gonna be a good texture. Okay, I'm done, John. How you doing?
no, I'm waiting for the potatoes to yield.
Potatoes to yield. That sounds like a song.
was thinking to bring it back in, but I forgot.
I actually thought about that too. Like we're rounding out the meal. We're a fun dessert. We don't even have dessert today. It's not like us.
No. So it says cook until the potatoes are tender. Show you what we're spearing here. Good size. I can force it.
Yeah.
So
Sometimes for me, potatoes, it's a fine line. They're a little tough still, but then you wait just 2 minutes long and now they're just mush.
yeah, no. So I'm going to add the saffron experiment.
So what if you didn't want to spend the money on saffron? What would we use?
Nothing.
I always thought turmeric was poor man's saffron.
It's yellow.
Yeah.
And that to me was sort of for the longest time, that's what I thought it was for. Was this, oh, you're just making it yellow.
Uh-huh.
So this is to see if that's the case.
Okay.
You know, I know from my youth, the discussion of saffron robed Buddhist monks.
Yes.
So it's like, okay, now I know what saffron looks like.
But turmeric must taste super different with saffron.
What?
Chimeras is pretty strong.
I know, it is. Okay, and this was the brand of gluten-free gnocchi that I found too. It was this brand. Think we're ready?
I think so.
Are those gnocchis in a refrigerated area?
Yeah.
They're just dry.
They're just with the
Yeah,
spaghetti stuff.
they're often on the top shelf, that's a lie. But yeah, they're so quick and easy. Thank you. All right. So I think we're ready to serve.
Two bowl egg.
What?
Everyone's gonna have 2 bowls.
Yes, you are.
Oh, I'm gonna eat one and then come back and get the other.
Okay.
I'll let you serve.
Oh, okay. Those curls look like chicken.
They do, or it almost looks like seafood,
Mary, you okay?
like chunks of fish.
Are you disappointed last yesterday?
No, I wasn't disappointed. I kind of knew that they would. No.
Did you see that?
Next year.
Yeah, but did you see that clip bottom shirt that? I did it last week. Yeah, playing on this. So the ending was one, but you can tell the company's gonna win. It's going to, so just come back a lot of things.
So
I'll watch the highlights later.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
go back or front.
I want,
Spoons are in the front.
the referee is just crappy in high school, they didn't throw something.
And well, you know what, I don't.
We don't ever
person
drink
I
white wine.
call,
We never
so
have
I used to go to watch South State games. Since I worked with us.
But you can get Sauvignon Blanc.
So guys, this is the best part where we now sit down and eat it. You're missing that, Diane. So could you hear okay, by the way?
The whole stadium.
Oh,
Yeah.
Here, with a comment from the group watching, it's hard.
All right, but you could hear John and Debbie okay?
It's fine.
Okay, good to know. Well, thanks for joining us. It's really, now we're just gonna eat.
Like you said, I'm missing the good part, but picked up some good pointers.
Yeah, okay, well, thanks.
Yeah.
Debbie's basically do this about once a month now. I don't know if you've seen other ones or not.
Several more.
And most of them are recorded and posted on our webpage if you wanted to go back and watch any of them.
Okay, that was one of my questions. I can go back and re-find them because lots of times I'm not available this hour.
That's pretty good.
And
even without salt.
I can actually show that to you right now. Let me stop the recording actually.
Okay.
Okay. Don't forget to come back with your second bowl.
Have you looked at our webpage before?
I think I have, yes.
Yeah. So we also